she grabbed herself a pickle. The funniest thing I've ever seen. But okay, with all memes out of the way, this was a very wholesome episode of Hamifruta, My Next Life as a Villainess. I have to say that this episode gave me a lot of feels. Like, I got emotional while watching this for obvious reasons, but when you really rip apart everything that this episode has to offer, it is just a recap episode. It really is. Like, it just really recaps all the characters' feelings for, you know, Katarina, you know, the conclusion they've come to after all of these years. That's what this episode fundamentally is, but regardless, it was a hell of a good episode. Like, it was truly an episode that did a fantastic job with conveying a recap while keeping it interesting to give character development to all the characters and to allow the power of friendship and love to actually prevail and bring Katarina back to her senses. This is a good episode. Like, it had a lot of cliches, but it was a fantastic episode. Very tasteful, and I will definitely praise a series when it uses these cliches to the fullest while using it in a tasteful manner. That's what this episode was. It was a very tasteful episode that didn't feel over the top. It actually felt just right with the timing of everything as well. The despair of leading to them realizing without her they wouldn't be where they're at right now. So they want to make Katarina feel saved as well. They want to save her because she saved them. It's a very beautiful way to show power, friendship, and love, and how it can transcend past space and time itself. This is something that is very common within stories, not just anime and manga, but just stories, and I think that this episode does a good job of conveying that to the audience. So, where to begin? I guess one of the big things I do want to talk about is Nicole's, dialogue. I think that this was the most dialogue, Nicole, hopefully I'm saying his name right, the most dialogue that he's gotten in this anime. Like, honestly, I had no idea he was the voice actor of Kirito until I really heard him speak a lot within this episode. I cannot be the only one. There is just no way I am the only person that sat down, watched this episode, and did not know that Nicole's voice actor was, Kirito from Sword Art Online. Like, I absolutely had no idea. I mean, the only way I guess you could know is if you went up to, I guess, the summary of the series, and you're like, okay, who's voice acting who? I guess you would know then. But as someone that doesn't typically do that often, I will say that I was pretty surprised to hear Kirito's voice actor within this episode. I was like, wow, usually he's the guy that is the center of a harem. Usually you have all these female characters coming after his character, not the reverse where he's going after a girl. I'm just like, wow, that's kind of a shock, honestly. I'm pretty impressed. But, the point, though, is like, I think this was the most lines he has been given throughout the series, and I do find it hilarious, though, when everybody's having their moment, they're barging into Katarina's room, they're, like, all saying their love, etc. You just hear Nicole's just like, like, he says, like, a weird sound or whatever. I'm like, wow, like, really? I feel like that's gonna become a meme. I don't know if others saw that, but just hearing him not really make any, like, noise, like he's just like, like when he comes into Katarina's room, that just seems so meme-worthy, because, like, everybody's saying their speeches and stuff, and he just says that, and I'm just like, wow, like, okay, so, this definitely plays true to his character, but it's just funny that his inner mind has so much dialogue, while the outside, he doesn't really say much or express himself very much. I think it's funny. Which, okay, speaking of other characters, though, we have Alan, and Alan, as I've already stated many times, Alan's probably one of my favorite characters of this series, because Alan, he's very different than the other characters that are part of Katarina's harem. He's someone that's very selfless. He's someone that honestly just loves to be around Katarina. He's happy that Katarina is very straightforward with him, very blunt. In this episode, he realizes this. He realizes why he has these feelings for Katarina, and I think this is great growth for his character. He actually realized how he truly feels about her. He loves her, but at the same time, he doesn't expect anything from her. All he wants is her to remain herself and just be the happy, cheerful, very, straightforward person that, is also kind of, like dumb, I guess, like a dumb rich girl. He just wants Katarina to remain herself, and I appreciate how honest Alan is within this episode and the character development he actually received, because he finally, after so many years within the story, he finally realized how he feels about her, and he can no longer shy away from it. Even Gerald, he actually goes goes through character development in this episode too. He actually fully admits his emotions, what he's been feeling since the very beginning towards Katarina. He admits he loves her, she's interesting, she brings his world to life. For instance, she brings color into his life. It's not a gray, boring world that he lives in, and he does have other emotions, jealousy and loneliness, because, he doesn't have Katarina to himself, but he accepts these emotions. It's growth for all the characters, and like I said, this was fundamentally a recap episode, really just showcasing all the characters' past times with Katarina and kind of where they began to where they're at now, but also sprinkling in, some character development. And that's what I love. That's all I ask for. That's really all I ask for. It's not much. That's all I ask for from an anime, is to give me stuff like this, and it definitely did. And Hami Furuya had a fantastic episode this week just for that alone, but that's not where the main meat of this episode is. It's actually, in fact, the stuff inside of Katarina's dreamscape when she's having, this dream about her previous life, being, in the normal world when she was with her family, when she, was playing visual novels. She goes back to kind of her previous world, and this is a very interesting depiction on these type of stories, because usually when you watch an isekai series, you don't typically see us going back to the original world. It's very, very rare. It's extremely rare, and not a lot of series really dive into it too much. Some kinda get over into that segment a little bit, like that kind of content, but they don't really kind of express it a lot. In this episode, it doesn't do anything groundbreaking, but it does go a little bit further than normal by having, Katarina in her previous life, kind of seeing what she had and what she lost, but now she has a new world and she needs to accept that she doesn't belong in her old world anymore. She belongs in her new world, her new life with her new friends and everything, her new family. That's where she belongs now. She came to realize that, and it honestly is also a realization for the viewers, the audience of the story as well, is to see how Katarina just had so much going for her in her life. Even though she was being made fun of or laughed at because, she was constantly sleeping in and not making it to school on time, she did have a relatively good life, a carefree life. She was able to go to school, have friends, she was able to play games, she had a great family, she had a brother and all that, and she lost it all. Just on a very unlucky day, she lost everything, and this episode kind of shows what she did lose. And seeing how Katarina's best friend from her original world kind of somehow entered into her dreamscape and started to talk to her, it was very emotional, because she's like, you need to understand that you don't belong here anymore, and the world just starts to shatter, and she starts to fall back into her new reality. It's thought-provoking, honestly. I wish a lot more isekai series actually dived into this, and it's honestly one of my favorite moments of, I guess, any series that could potentially do it. And I think that Hami Furuya definitely nailed it. I wish it would have been a little bit deeper and explained a little bit more, because, I really do want to know if the, best friend that Katarina's talking to, if that really was her best friend, or if it was just her mind talking with her because she was just in a dreamlike state. I don't really know how to comprehend that. I'm assuming most likely that really was Katarina's best friend, though, because she was technically in a dreamlike state, thanks to, dark magic, and because of how dark magic is normally in stories, it's very convoluted, it's, very mysterious, and I feel like maybe spirits, etc., probably could enter into, let's say, this dreamscape that Katarina had because of, dark magic. I just feel like that's maybe what happened there because of the magic used on Katarina. Maybe spirits were allowed to enter it, and Sophia, which is technically the reincarnation of Katarina's best friend, most likely was able to enter it and talk with her, and that's kind of what happened. So, kind of cool, honestly. I do think that there is some things I wish was expanded upon, but it was a really good segment of the episode that had power, friendship, and love actually tasteful for once. Didn't feel over the top and annoying. So, next up is Sirius. So, finally our character's confronting Sirius, the student council president that has dark magic, and it is clarified that he is definitely not rotten to the core. He definitely has some form of kindness and innocence within his very soul that is presented within this episode. It's very brief, but it's very clear that whatever dark magic he has came along with an evil dark spirit, and that evil dark spirit is most likely what's really manipulating Sirius to do these despicable despicable things, what he's done already throughout, last episode, that's probably the case. And so, it makes it fundamentally clear how his route is conquerable now. Why he can be romanced is because it's not necessarily him that's evil, it's just the unfortunate circumstances that surround him. Is that his mother died, probably was the one a part of the ritual that gave him the dark magic, and because of that, the dark magic came with an evil spirit, which has been slowly eroding and taking control of his mind, and he's trying to fight back against it. He's like a scared little boy that has really not grown up much, and he just needs to see the light, and most likely the main route, protagonist, Martia, was supposed to do that, but obviously it is now Katarina, since technically she is the one that is the MC of this story, which, by the way, I do think that the way Katarina was saved was very visual novel-like, and I don't know how many actually realize that, but it makes a lot of sense when you look at it from game terms on how she actually awoke out of that dark-like state, like that dream-like state. To kind of explain, all the characters come to a realization of how Katarina is, like, what she means to them, and all the characters go through their, recap and all that, and this is kind of like what would happen within these type of games, like a visual novel, to where you have to go down each route, and you have to kind of get them to a certain love interest level to make them interested in you, learn their stories, help them out, and then eventually you unlock the true ending, which is what's going on here with Sirius. I feel like to achieve this route, technically, you would probably have to go down every single character's route, but not fully romance them, but keep them in a harem-like state, kind of what Katarina has done, to be able to achieve this route with Sirius to win him over. I feel like that's probably the way this route's circumstances are. It feels like that. I feel like all the characters coming to that realization is kind of like it wouldn't be possible if Katarina didn't help them all, and most likely that's probably how the game intended it as well, is that you needed to help these characters out of their dark, environments, help them out for the better, and then you could finally tackle, the real route, which is, Sirius. But I'm gonna leave it at that, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, and with that, Chibi out.